Mr. Roger, thanks for dropping by. Everything in bloom on the 8th. On the 8th. Those that have been around a while know that I don't always manage to get everything in bloom on the 8th, actually on the day. But we're okay this time. Had it been yesterday, then it wouldn't have happened, because it would have clashed with the Sunday chat. So anyway, we're okay this time round. And it's a regular feature. I do it every month. We look at blooms on and off during the month anyway. Certainly as new blooms open, we tend to sort of film those as and when. But this one is only blooms. It's not buds, it's not spikes, it's not things that have just gone over or things that aren't quite open yet. This is what's actually in bloom on the day, and that's as it's always been. So I've managed to do something I don't normally do, because I normally can't be bothered, but I've dragged out my Restrepias because 3 out of 4 of them are in bloom, which is good. Now I'll have to play with this to try and get as close as possible to show you the detail level. So I'm just trying to pick a bloom here. Quite sure which one will be best. Not that one. Let's try that one. No, we're going to try that one, because with that one I can get the black pot behind it. Now what I'm hoping to do with these is use this, tap the screen to force the camera to focus so that I can get in close. Now this is Restrepia falkenbergii species. Came from Burnham's originally as a plant with about 5 leaves on. And I've grown it on since then. It's the one I've had, well, there's 2 that I got together that I've had the longest. They were a pair and my first ever Restrepias, and quite honestly I just like Restrepias. This camera's decided to go off the bloom despite me telling it to stay there. But nonetheless, I mean, handheld, I can't normally get this close, so hopefully that's staying in focus. This falkenbergii is big enough that it's permanently in bloom, quite honestly. It does have moments where there's quite a lot of blooms, and other times there might just be an odd 1 or 2. But this isn't bad for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a little tiny one in there. 5. Another one round here. 6. 7. 7, I think, this time round, and quite, as you can see, there's quite a few buds still to come. So at the moment this one's doing quite well, not bad at all. But these are delicate blooms. As I say, the patterning on them really is rather nice. And out of my Tolumnias, this is the small one, right? And we can do a comparison of size now. If I bring this one round and put the 2 next to each other, now you can see the difference. Yes. Now as Restrepias go, I've got Tolumnias on the brain today. This is a big one, and this is one of the hybrids that have come from the Eric Young Foundation, and they are renowned for producing some of the largest bloomed Restrepia hybrids. And this one is Howley, and dear oh dear, we do some daft things sometimes. I'm tapping the screen to get the camera to focus on that point. Now it pays to tap your finger on the screen where the bloom is, not tap the bloom like I was about to do. Duh. We are having a moment. Right, so hopefully that should allow me to stay nice and close without losing focus. These are unusual shaped blooms. Restrepias are similar, very similar. Sometimes you will get these 2 elements of the bloom are fused together, but sometimes they're separate. and they do actually form two parts. They're normally fused at least halfway down, and then you've got these three antennae and that strange little apparatus in the middle there. So that's those two. And last time I went to Burnham's, I was spending my birthday money, and it's been a long time since my birthday, but I'd still like to put out another thank you. Because at the end of the day, somebody organised it, somebody got contributions from quite a lot of people, organised and arranged with Sarah to give me a voucher for my 70th birthday. You know, so people had bothered to join in with that, and somebody had bothered to organise it, and it's greatly appreciated. In more ways than one, because although Sarah was involved in it, she did get quite a lot of spend money from me that day, which, given the lockdown situation, obviously I'm sure that was greatly appreciated. You know, I mean, I can't imagine Sarah's business is doing extraordinarily well compared with how it should be doing, but at least it's ticking over. She's got a good online business going on, and people are supporting her in that way. Now this one says it's a species, but in fact it's a cross, but it doesn't say what it's a cross with. Yeah, so Restrepia cuprea and hybrid in brackets. So anyway, it's a beauty. And I was going around with my birthday money thinking, what am I going to spend it on? And I wouldn't, under normal circumstances, have probably bought a Restrepia, but this was in the restricted area, so this wasn't for general sale. And I did say, can I have one of those? And I think Sarah sent Arthur in to count them, see how many there were. There were quite a few, so I managed to come out with one of these. Now again, if I tap the screen, we should be able to get a nice, whoops, missed, nice close focus of this one. This one is a beautiful, deep, rich colour, and unlike the other two, it's not necessarily, you couldn't really say that that is a striped pattern, it's a spotty pattern, but the depth of the red here is absolutely incredible, and it's like velvet, absolutely gorgeous. So there we go. As I say, we don't look at the Restrepias very often. There is another one, but it's decided to sulk and not have any blooms at all at the moment. So well, you can stay down there on your own then, and we'll just have a look at these three. Right, I need to get these out the way now, so I'll turn the camera off and I'll be back. Right, we'll come over here now. Now this has recently opened. One of my Latorias. It's Eximium crossed with Rhodostictum, and so this is the first time I've seen what these blooms look like, and they're hangers, as I call them. In other words, they open facing downwards, so to see them you have to lift them up, basically. Some people would stake them to be able to see them. These are attractive. For me, they're not as attractive as Rhodostictum on its own. And I'll see if I can explain why. So I'm trying to hold the camera and hold the bloom. Right, if you look at the bloom, you've got the centre, you've got your three sepals, which are the bud, in fact, and then the two petals. Now, on the Rhodostictum, those petals form wings. They're quite pronounced, and they set themselves back between the sepals. So if you look at this bloom, it might open better than this, I don't know. But at the moment, the sepals and those two petals are pointing forward. Yeah? So if you look at it from the side, they're pointing forward. Now on the Rhodostictum, those two petals they end up like in a vertical plane, and they're much more pronounced. But nonetheless, it's beautiful pattern inside. Typical Latoria shape. Nothing different about that, and plenty more to come. Plenty more. A couple of sets of three. This is a set of three. There's another set of three up here, but that bud blasted on there. But they seem to mainly come out in pairs. That's going to be a pair as well. but most of the canes have actually got buds on apart from the new growths. So yeah, it's not a bad show, not a bad show. But as I say, not quite as attractive as rhodostictum on its own. And if I ever get the chance to get rhodostictum again, I will get it. I did have it once, but I lost it. That was in the the mass exodus of the Latoria types from my presents when they well, it was my own fault. They just stayed wet in the winter when it was cold. I lost the roots and they just didn't recover. So these are, so you know, that's one of the replacements, and it's a good plant. It's a good strong plant, so I'm pleased with that. Right, that's that one. So I'm coming on round, hoping not to miss anything. Right, we better have our last look at this one. This is the Laelia crossed with the Broughtonia. Pop-ups will be there with the names. I'm not going to attempt to try and remember them all. And you know what I'm like, there won't be tags on a lot of them. But this is just going now. This has had 4 spikes. It's been in bloom some time. It's done well, and it's down to its last spike now. I took the other 3 off today, as there were no blooms left. And yeah, so this is a very attractive bloom. I'm going to touch it to make sure it hopefully stays in focus and I can get nice and close. But very delicate, very, very slightly fragrant, and I do mean slightly fragrant as well. You'd have a job to notice it. But yeah, pleased with that. It's done well, done very well actually, lasted well. Now I shall be looking for new growths on that. It'll probably have a bit of a rest now and probably won't do much for a bit, and then the new growths will start, followed by a new flush of roots. Normal process, nothing unusual there. Right, so that's the start of the Cattleyas, and then coming round here, one of my favourites, and this is the one with the long name, Shin Fong Little Sun Young Min Golden Boy, and this earns its keep. It's a delightful Cattleya, absolutely delightful. If I stop waggling it around. Small blooms, but it's what I call small but perfectly formed, because it is. The blooms are a good shape, a nice sort of rounded shape to them, petals and sepals of similar size, and the depth of the red in that lip is absolutely gorgeous. Very, very attractive bloom. So I'm trying to touch the screen, but I can't see what the hell I'm doing here. It's just so that I can get in closer, so that you can get a good look at that lip. Rather nice, that one. And then coming over here, recently opened. Now this is just a no ID, just a hybrid. And you could probably tell that when I saw that, I thought, I'm having some of that. And a lot of it is the lip. It's not just the frilliness edged with that deep red, but have a look at the outside. The veining is on the outside as well as on the inside, whereas under a lot of circumstances the definition and the colour patterning on a Cattleya is in the lip, so you have to look down the throat to see it, whereas this one, it's on the outside as well. And lovely orange, lovely bright orange colour, and really nice patterning on the lip. Very, very delicate. Love that one. And then this one down here, we nearly lost this, and as a consequence the blooms are a little distorted this time, but I had some serious rot got into this plant. I got a feeling I was within a day or two of losing the whole plant. It was just spotted in time. Sometimes when that happens, you're not in time, and it's got into the rhizome and it'll just take all the bulbs down. But I managed to cut the latest growth and another one off. Those are the stumpy bits, and get cinnamon on it, and it sort of managed to recover, sort of. And it put up this growth with 2 blooms on. That's not a good blooming. And as far as the plant is concerned, it's doing nothing now, and probably won't do anything now until those blooms are finished. But they're not quite perfect. This bloom here it's sort of got itself stuck. And again here, this one didn't open as well as it should. I mean, it does have 3 sepals and 2 petals, but it should look more like that. Colour changer, that one. It opens quite a nice yellow colour and then fades to orange. So that's the Cattleya set. Only one Tolumnia open at the moment, and this one is really playing ball, because as the buds are opening, these two have opened next to each other. You'd think that was a different plant. So that's the one that's been open the longest. That one hasn't been open as long. And as you can see, it's a colour changer, and it's quite dramatic too. Yeah, it does have a distinct colour change. And that's Tolumnia White Beauty. Yeah, I like it. I think that was a present from Lynn. But you can see, if I come round here, if you look at that one that's just opening, look how deep the yellow is. So it goes from this colour here, that bud just opening, and it fades through that type of yellow, and then the yellow disappears virtually across the board apart from that tiny little bit there, and you end up with a white flush with the pink. So the pink's there all the time, although when it first opens it's more red than pink, and then it fades to yellow with the pink, and then the yellow fades to white with the pink. So yeah, quite a little colour changer, that one. So that's that. And then up above my head we have Dendrobium conico, and this one blooms on and off. Well, mainly on. Certainly through last season it was in bloom virtually for the whole season, and on and off through the winter. It's having a little bit of a flush at the moment. There's 4 blooms on there, but that's not many. What I'm waiting for on this one is for the newer canes to start to bloom, because at the moment it just pops out some blooms now and again on some of the oldest canes. And there's obviously a lot of new canes up the top of the plant that are gradually arching over, and some of them are, they're losing their leaves, so these canes are going to start blooming soon. Yeah, so we'll see how we go. So that's that one. And then down here we've got Dendrobium prima donna. Get this one out into the light. This one is just going to fall over and frighten the life out of me. It's still a wobbly plant, that one. Now this one varies. How many of you reached for the screen then to try and stop it falling over? So I've done it myself when watching somebody else's video, and you can see a plant going, you put your hand out to help. You can't. Anyway, this one, it's the delicateness of the pink tips. So very tip of the lip, tip of the petals and sepals have just got that, I don't know what sort of pink you'd call it, lilac-y pink. And that's what makes the yellow really nice. It is a very attractive bloom, there's no doubt about it. It is very slightly fragrant. Others have got this one and have actually said it's very fragrant. Well, mine isn't. It's slightly fragrant. But it's a very attractive bloom, and its only downside is that the blooms tend to cluster. They could do with stems a little longer so that they separate and you can see them individually. But beautiful deep golden lip in the centre of the lip. Slightly frilly with that tiny little touch of pink. Now sometimes this blooms and the pink is virtually gone. Just the tiniest of traces. And other times the blooms come out and it's quite prominent. You'd call it a pink, tip rather than just a touch. But yeah, it's one of the nobly types I've had the longest, and although you'd never believe it now, some time ago when this was in its actual heyday, it actually got Best Hybrid in Show at the Wessex show. And it was a spectacular plant in those days. But then it got split into three. Pieces went off to other people, and I'm effectively regrowing it now. And this is the first stage of regrowing it. It needs a repot, which it will get soon. These older canes will come off, yeah, and we will be growing some new ones. We've still got buds just forming around this side of the plant, and obviously these are going to open soon. So I'll be reconfiguring the plant and actually, tying the canes or staking the canes to open it up a bit, get rid of the older canes, and get it repotted and start generating some nice big canes again. You can see how long the canes once were, and they're no longer doing that. Yeah, and that's because it got repotted at the wrong time and basically stunted the growth for that year, which is what we're left with now. Yeah, so be it, as they say. Right, then we've got the Dendrobium spectabile. It's difficult to film these blooms. It's difficult to know where to point the camera, quite honestly, because they are such a weird shape. And again, they hang down. Sorry, I'm just trying to think. I need to move it because obviously the bright pink one behind it is distracting. Let's get that there and lift it up. That's a bit better. Now you can sort of see what we're getting at. But it is an incredibly weird shape. Petals and sepals are really curly and bendy, and every bloom's different. There's no pattern to this at all. They're all just curly and reflex and all over the place. And then the centre area, I'll call it a lip because that's what it is, I suppose, is in two sections. You've got the top section is like a hood, and that's white with deep red markings on, and then the lower section is a greeny colour with bright red striping, and the lip tends to curl right round the back of the plant, right round here. This is an unusual shaped bloom, and this is the first time this has bloomed for me, so yeah, well pleased with that. This was an unexpected gift, quite honestly, to say the least. This was one of the plants that Zaina gave me before she moved to Italy, and I noticed the Orchid Society of Great Britain are now sort of advertising her and her husband's posts, because they were both on the committee. Zaina was a secretary and hosted Zoom meetings and things like that, and her husband is the librarian, and obviously trying to do those posts from Italy is not ideal when all the meetings are in this country. So yeah, so it should be replaced eventually, but it's difficult to get anybody to do anything at the moment because nobody can go to meetings, so it's difficult to be a librarian and handle all the books and when nobody can come and collect the books. So difficult times, but it'll sort itself out one day. And then last on the list, he says, scanning around quickly, making sure it is last on the list. Yes, it is. Right. The last one is this monster here. And this is the Sweet Pinky Momoko. And this, its only downside is the fact that there is no sheen whatsoever on the blooms. It's as though they've been painted in watercolours on flat white paper. If any of you have ever done any painting. There's no sheen at all. They are absolutely matte, flat finished. But that's the beauty of this. It's the sheer size of the individual blooms. They are enormous. Absolutely enormous. I can't remember seeing a nobly type dendrobium with larger blooms than this. And also, I'll let you know definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, when I bought this at, this was another one I got at Burnham's back not last summer, the summer before, I think. It had a damaged new growth, which Sarah pointed out. I'd seen it anyway, but she said, "Oh, there's a new growth broken on that one." I said, "Yeah, but it's got two more. It's, you know, it'll grow on. It'll be okay." So I took it anyway. It was in bloom at the time, and it had a much more traditional nobly type mass-produced blooming, where the blooms are tightly clustered over most of the length of the cane. Well, it's bloomed differently this time because the blooms are mainly at the top of the cane, not the whole length of the cane. That's more like you get them to bloom when you're growing them in the home without that mass production element. But I'm very pleased with its blooming nonetheless, and these blooms are probably half as big again as the ones that were on it when it bloomed via the mass producer. So I reckon I've done pretty well with this, because it's a good blooming. There are a lot of them. They are much bigger than before and have a lovely colour. There's not much more you can say about that. It's just a good version of a nobly type dendrobium. And you know, it's one that I'm well pleased with. It's, you know, when I got it, it was a no ID. Sarah said, "I haven't got a clue what that one is." I said, "Don't worry, I'll probably be able to find out." And I tracked it back, and I did manage to find out. So yeah, pleased. And yeah, so that's what's in bloom on the day. What did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I believe that was, which out of 180 orchids is not that good. But it just happens to be that time of year. And as I've said, I don't do buds and spikes in this one. There's a fair bit lurking that has not been in this video that we will get to eventually, you know, as and when they open. And yeah, let's finish on that. It's just looking nice in the light at the moment. Very nice. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. I suppose I ought to include this one, even though it grows in the house. It's one of the 3 house phalaenopsis. It is nonetheless in bloom. And again, I mean, this was, you know, these were chosen as pretty blooms must have, sticking up out of a huge pile of them. These 3, don't think I shall do it today. I've done enough today, but they need a repot. Irrespective of the fact this one is in bloom, it's going to have to be repotted along with the other 2. Been in their pot a while now, and it is time. So yeah, nearly forgotten, but not quite.